there, my name is Brigitte Kaiser and I am the founder of the Earth Custodians movement. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing to our channel. This presentation is about child and underage sex trafficking worldwide, and also why it is about time that we unite and stand up against this world pandemic.
I was raised in Belgium and sold into a murderous pedophile network right around my 6th birthday. I was used in this network for 5 years and a half. Adult men that were part of this exclusive club were there for various reasons, but there was a lot of alcohol, a lot of drugs, and the children were the commodity, the highest, the most valued commodity.
Pedophilia and human trafficking as a whole have existed since the dawn of time. The global pandemics that they have become is no surprise though, since we simply failed to address the core issues for centuries long. And that very root cause is the monetization of life. As a result, pedophilia and human sex trafficking have grown exponentially, and until we begin to do something about it, the trends will not slow down. It is exponential because the monetization of life cannot happen without violence. Kids exposed to such an aggression will grow up passing on to their own children such values. Turning a blind eye is no longer an option. The monetization of life will have to stop at some point because treating humans as commodities has no incentives at all whatsoever. We just need to look around us to grasp that our materialistic paradigm is simply dying in front of our very eyes. It is about time to question the purpose of life itself and the legacy of the cult of the Virgin praised by so many belief systems. And why this obsession with it does sell so well worldwide. Realizing that the respect for life must be given an absolute priority is the biggest challenge we face today on a planetary scale. When observing the countless ecological threats on top of that, it is rather obvious that the service to creation is paramount.
Stakeholders to focus on the demand factor and establish comprehensive strategies to reduce it effectively. My belief is that in the United States we need to do no less. We've made enormous progress, but let me take you back 13 years. Congressman Holtgren reminded you that for almost 30 years I ran the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And in 2003, I was honored to play a part in designing and implementing a new approach addressing sex trafficking in this country. It was called Innocence Lost, and it was developed in partnership with the FBI and the United States Department of Justice. And the philosophy was very basic. Historically, when law enforcement addressed the problem of trafficking in this country, they did it almost exclusively at the local level and almost entirely by the arrest of the victim. So the goal of Innocence Lost was to look at this problem from the 30,000-foot level and in a multi-jurisdictional collaborative way. So we created task forces around the country, federal, state, local task forces working together. And the results have been dramatic. So you would expect, with that kind of collaborative, coordinated effort over the span of 13 years, that the problem would have disappeared, or at least declined dramatically. The very opposite happened. Almost as soon as the trafficker goes away, somebody else springs up in his place. How is that possible? Well, what we have learned is that there's a very basic equation here. This is behavior that is easy to do, very little risk, addressing a problem with enormous consumer demand, and therefore is enormously profitable.
And therefore, it is enormously profitable. Let's replay that again.
Very little risk, addressing a problem with enormous consumer demand, and therefore is enormously profitable.
Where does the demand come from if it is ever increasing? Animal studies provide evidence of transgenerational epigenetic inheritance, that the environment can affect an individual's genetics and memories, which can in turn be passed on. Findings were highly relevant to phobias, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorders, and provided compelling evidence that a form of memory could be passed between generations. We must take action, or in a generation from now, all the kids on Earth will suffer from sexual abuse PTSDs as a first-hand trauma or genetically inherited, hence increasing the abusers-victims ratio over time. Do this because of money? In fact, people can clearly see all the evils directly caused by money and still defend it because it is a programming that makes their lives go round. This is the mother of all paradoxes. The century-old consensus is that we can control the material, and it is precisely why that very mindset has led us to the brink. Unfortunately, it is impossible to manage the material without the awareness of natural love. Many today still think that it is possible to just look rationally at the picture and remove whatever pieces that do not fit into it by just crafting more man-made love. But unfortunately, it cannot be the case because what needs to change is hiding deep within.
This is Medellin's red light district. Daniela has been walking these streets for 5 years, since she was 11. Prostitution is legal here, but the age of consent is 18.
Donde llegan chinos, llegan brasileros, europeos, extranjeros, de todo, toda clase de hombres.
¿Buscando niñas menores de edad?
Menores de edad y hasta más. No le gustan las niñas de 16, 17, sino de 11, de 10, de 9.
Nujud Ali was just an 8-year-old child when her father arranged for her to get married. She was one of 16 children. She loved school and playing games with her brothers and sisters.
فجأة حصلت لي قالوا الزواج جابوا لي ملابس وأدوات فلبست أنا وراحوا بي سووا لي الميك اب وأنا حتى صغيرة كنت فرحة بالأشياء هذه بس مش عارفة إني زواجة أو إني معنى زواجة.
The man she married was 3 times her age.
بس ما فكرت بأنه هذه الطفلة اللي هي نجود بأنه عمر 8 سنوات لما راح يدخل فيها الرجل راح يسبب لها جروح.
أنا فكرت أن أم قالوا لي لم يدخل عليها بشيء إلا بعد مدة طويلة.
عند البلوغ.
عند البلوغ أيوه بعد ما تبلغ بسنة. وما فيها الرجال ما يعني ما بزها ولا احترمها ولا احترمنا.
اعتداء على جنسيا في ليلة الدخلة كان غصب عني، لأنه كنت أنا وأمه وأخته ومرات أخو جالسين، فمرات أخو خرجت لقيت أمه وأخته، فاعتداء علي كان يقول لي ما في الله أن أنتِ الآن كنتي مرتي خلاص.
أمه موجودة كانت لما اعتدى عليك جنسيا؟
أي لأني أمه كانت ماسكالي.
مسكاكي؟
مسكاني هكذا.
Child sex and human trafficking are a taboo because it would force all cultures to understand that what has remained unaddressed for centuries is now destroying the fabric of society, while affecting us all evenly. Also, people sense that it would bring about serious disruptions and cannot think in those terms because they are afraid to see their livelihood fall apart. So instead of acknowledging that their culture has a serious problem, they blame money for it or find the conspiracy of silence more appealing. Money is the drive that makes people do it. Yes, no doubt about that. But we can no longer afford to avoid the question as to whether money has really made society better. Sorry, it has not. There is no way to extricate ourselves from the trap painlessly. Materialism has the habit to follow the path of least resistance, and yes, something big must be given up.
Right off the bat, I can name 6 names. It connects pedophilia to one of the major studios.
The way that he would threaten me was like, you know, if you tell your parents what's going on, you tell your mom, you're not going to be able to act anymore.
Many of the adults in there know each other and are exchanging information about certain kids. It's frightening. I've heard many stories of kids going to an agent who can control their career and put them into auditions. And so the agent's spending time alone with the child. They're able to sort of, unfortunately, get them away from parental supervision. And then they take advantage of these kids. And it's more common, I think, than we can even imagine.
Pedophilia and sex abuse haven't spared the Roman Church either. But there too, we cannot trust the release numbers because of the so many that didn't come forward. But more seriously, even if the church is involved, people would rather chat about sport than facing the facts.
CNN's Gene Casares joins me now. And Gene, the Catholic Church has anticipated this report for weeks. Now that it's out, the details are incredibly disturbing.
Absolutely amazing. You know, Jake, grand jurors say that the pattern by the clergy was pretty much the same. The philosophy was not to help children, but to avoid scandal. Grand jurors say in the report that, quote, avoiding scandal appears over and over again in the documents that were recovered, and they reviewed over 500,000 internal church documents.
Every one of Chile's 34 Roman Catholic bishops has offered to resign over a child sex abuse scandal and subsequent cover-up. The senior clerics made their offer in writing after a 3-day meeting at the Vatican, at which the Pope handed them a 10-page document accusing the Chilean hierarchy of negligence over child sex abuse.
In the Philippines, more than 800,000 women and children work in the sex trade. Subic Bay, a 4-hour drive from Manila, is a destination for many foreign men. Men who come to buy sex from vulnerable women and children who are children like Apple, who lives and works on the streets. She's 16, has a 2-year-old baby, and is pregnant again.
Hindi ko feel magtrabaho doon. Nakakapagod, tapos nakakahiya yun. Nakakatakot din kasi may customer na kahit gawin mo yung maganda, kahit maging mabait ka, meron talagang nananakit. Kaya pag pumasok ka ng hotel, may isang paa mo nakalubog na sa hukay. Marami na namatay doon na babae sa ginagawa ng customer. Kasi delikado talaga. Delikado.
You heard me, child pornography. As many as 1,700 names, according to a U.S. senator, on a list of 5,200 from an internet sting operation overlooked the first time around 4 years ago. Only now are they supposedly getting a second look, and only Information Act request. Out of that 3,500, investigators uncovered 264 employees or contractors, including staffers for the Secretary of Defense and contractors at the NSA. After about 8 months, the entire probe was halted. It left about 1,700 names totally unchecked. 1,700 alleged kiddie porn customers, an unknown number of whom may still work in some capacity for the Defense Department.
Listen to this. A senior aid worker has been suspended and faces dismissal for passing an internal report on the sexual abuse of children by French peacekeeping troops in the Central African Republic. The report details the rape and sodomy of boys as young as 9 years old, and which allegedly took place between December 2013 and June of 2014, when the UN mission in the country, MINUSCA, was just getting started. This individual, Anders Kompus, who's a Swedish national, and he is a director of the field operations for the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. 30-year veteran in the post, highly experienced individual, saw that nothing was being done, and he leaked the report. The disturbing thing is that this incident, these repeated instances of sexual abuse in refugee camps where these UN peacekeepers were supposed to be protecting the very people that they were abusing, is not an isolated incident. This is something apparently that has happened repeatedly, and it happens a lot, and it gets covered up.
One child in every 5 in South Africa is sexually abused by the time they're in their late teens. In Diepsloot, where an estimated 600,000 people now live, rape is shockingly commonplace. Almost everyone knows a rapist, or they've been raped, or they're doing the raping. Like this 40-year-old, a father of 2 boys himself, who raped the toddler he was looking after. The statistics show far fewer, but many believe rape is just not reported because the victims have no faith in the police or the justice system.
I'm Steve Chow. On this episode, 101 East goes inside the sprawling brothel to find out how the women and their children survive when hope is in short supply.
Doladia is a town 100 kilometres west of Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh. For over 30 years, it has been home to one of the largest brothels in the world. Just 3 weeks ago, Bithi was still living in Dhaka. Her father couldn't work anymore, so as the oldest daughter, it was up to her to feed the family. An acquaintance took advantage of her situation, promising her work. He kidnapped her and brought her here.
পাড়াপড়শি তো পরিচয় হয়ে গেছে শুনছিলাম 30,000 টাকার কথা মানে ওই টাকা যতদিন না শোধ হবে ততদিন মনে করেন যে আমাকে থাকতে হবে
ছোটতে শুরু করে বড় বন্ধু সবই আছে 10 বছরের থেকে শুরু করে 40 বছরের বন্ধু সবই আছে 50 টাতে শুরু করে 500 1000 সবই আছে
Spain is reeling from an avalanche of shocking allegations of baby theft and baby trafficking, recently revealed to have gone on for decades. Graves are being exhumed, their contents exposing the cynical deceits used to trade in human life. Since the Spanish Civil War, Hundreds of thousands of babies are believed to have been trafficked by nuns, priests and doctors.
Monetarism has also institutionalized the right to ownership, stating that every human has the right to own him or herself. What it really entails is that people have the right to regard themselves and others as commodities. There is unfortunately no other interpretation possible. But there is yet another faulty logic that springs from the right to ownership, and which is from the very moment one endorses this premise, anybody owning more than the average population will systematically own those whose living standards are inferior. This dynamics is embedded in the right to ownership. There is no such thing as the right to own oneself, because we all are parts or fractals of the same bigger picture.
कानुनी रूपमा नेपालमा चाहिँ प्रगति नै मानिन्छ, दक्षिण एसियामै कानुनी प्रगति मानिन्छ, तर त्यो कानुन कतिको कार्यान्वयन भएको छ त्यो हेर्ने चाहिँ अहिले बेला भइसकेको छ। हामी हेर्नु पनि पर्छ कानुन कार्यान्वयनको कुरा पनि।
Nepal's government promises reforms, but in towns and villages across the country, change is coming far too slowly. The government needs to come up with a real plan and quickly, before more children see their futures stolen from them by child marriage.
Journalist Najibullah Qureshi is in Afghanistan to investigate the re-emergence of an ancient tradition banned under the Taliban, which exploits young Afghan boys. Former warlords and powerful businessmen have revived what they call bacha bazi. It translates literally as boy play.
I think if you're here, they say no. You know channel? Huh? خوی نزمین ها ما کار داریم نه؟ همین بچه ها نیست؟ رقص بچه ها نیست؟ چی بچه هست؟ ما فیلم تا کار داریم همین نیست؟ بچه بازی؟ حالا این بچه بازی اینجا فروشی خو ممانعت نیست پلیس کار نه آزاده این چند است؟ بشواسه 3 فیلم داره 3 تا دایی خو کل زنا معلوم میشه بچه ها را نیست زن خواندن کده بچه را I just walked for 5 minutes about 100 yards and I bought 20 Dancing Boys DVDs from the Kabul street, and I've asked them, and they said it's legal, and you can buy, you can sell, and the audience mostly they saying that people who interest in boys, they will buy this kind of DVDs.
These are the faces of the boys and girls who have disappeared in China without a trace. Chai Ling, founder of the group All Girls Allowed, has been working with volunteer organizations to promote awareness and help families find their children. She says many of the missing are kidnapped and sold.
The brothels, they will buy the women and even girls into sex slavery, that's a huge market out there. Then individual families who want to make sure they have a wife for their own son.
Traditional Chinese culture places more value on a boy. When they grow up, the men are expected to live with and care for their parents, take a wife, and continue the family name. Chai says when a woman is pregnant with a girl,
some families are taking this matter into their own hands by selectively aborting, abandoning, and selling their baby girls.
Do you swear on your life? I swear on my life. You swore you never tell. You swore you never tell.
Don't forget to smoke. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage contestant number 27. A big round of applause for Destiny.
Psychologist, I'm not surprised, because we have lots of research that shows how we're hypersexualizing girls at incredibly early ages. As a parent, I was stunned that the parents were asleep at the switch, that they don't even see what's going on there.
The issue in the West is much more mind-boggling and also upsetting because the sexualization of kids is definitely encouraged by the media and even the government, such as in France. This is social engineering. There is no other definition to describe this highly disturbing trend.
At just 8 years old, Nemes has already perfected his drag queen alter ego Lactatia, complete with a blonde wig and full makeup. And Lactatia and Mum Jessica join us now from Montreal. Good morning.
Good morning.
Got pink wig on today, looking fantastic. We noticed you were practicing a little bit of the voguing, Lactatia, earlier on. How far have you got with these lessons?
Good.
Can you show us a bit?
Okay, I'm going to move.
Vogue with me.
Okay, let's
Do
vogue.
it with me.
I don't vogue. Don't want to get hit in the head.
This
Looking
is
good.
very impressive.
Looking good.
Well done. So listen, Lactatia, I've got to ask you, where did this all begin?
Our world pedophilia pandemic has a secondary ingredient, and which is the result of moral relativism. If thinking that another culture can abuse children because it is their culture highlights the social scourge that is moral relativism. When the abuse is cultural, most do not see where it is really wrong or call it a necessary evil. For example, the West will easily point the finger at child bride customs in foreign countries, but remain blind to an 8-year-old sexualized boy and looking like a drag queen.
18. There's gonna be drag kids in the world. And I'm one of them.
Still in a state of recovery 30 years later, 1 in 3 of Cambodia's 15 million people are living on less than 50 cents a day. Together, the NGOs and the national police have begun to make major inroads in combating Western paedophiles operating in Cambodia. However, Western men only account for 10% of the problem. The majority of the demand for underage girls in Cambodia is fueled by Cambodians themselves.
យើងគិតថាធម្មតាពេលនេះខ្មែរយើងភាពបរិសុទ្ធគឺជាភាពមួយដែលជាតម្រូវការរបស់បុរសភាគច្រើនបាទអញ្ចឹងហើយបានជាពេលហ្នឹងខ្ញុំសម្រេចចិត្តថាទី1យើងត្រូវទៅចំណាយលុយទាំងអស់ហ្នឹងទៅដើម្បីចង់បានភាពអស្ចារ្យហ្នឹងឯង
The
នៅស្រុកខ្មែរយើងវាតែងតែឮសូរថាពាក្យថាទិញព្រហ្មចារីមូលហេតុដែលធ្វើឲ្យខ្ញុំទិញស្រីកមុំខ្ញុំមកដេកហ្នឹងដោយសារវាស្រីកមុំធ្វើឮចាស់បុរាណគេថាទិញស្រីមកដេកជាមួយធ្វើឲ្យសាច់ចាំអាយុវែងប៉ុន្តែបច្ចុប្បន្នហ្នឹងដូចជាខាងខ្ញុំស្ដាប់បានមួយចំនួននេះពាក់ព័ន្ធទិញព្រហ្មចារីហ្នឹងដូចជាមានលក្ខណៈមួយវាអាកំបាំងណា
The men they believe that if they have sex with the younger virginity, it make them like white skin, good luck, long life, younger, and right now it's like sometimes like the kind of the medicine for the protection HIV/AIDS. So right now, you know, every day younger and younger girl to make sure that they have virginity, to make sure that they never have sex.
It's groundless, it's based for nothing, but it's belief, they believe. So when they believe like that, they are willing to buy a virgin. And there are a lot of traffic on that. The problem of the virus, HIV/AIDS. So men now, they are scared of getting that virus, and they know that now you can go to a plastic surgery to get a false virgin. So they ask a very young girl now, saying that if they take a girl of 12 years old or 13 years old, maybe they'll get a real virgin. So they are willing to pay a big amount of money for Cambodian. Sometimes they pay 700, minimum 700, sometimes more than 1,000. So you have a traffic of that. The intermediary go to the countryside, try to find a real virgin, brought, sell to the Asian man. So he take her for 1 week, for 1 month, and after sell her to a brothel.
Many of the girls here, their families exist on less than $2 a day, and that's not a lot of money. If we send a girl to a home that's subsistence in that sense, you can guess what's going to happen to the girl. She's a commodity still.
ជីវភាពពាក់លុយគេបានខ្ញុំលក់កូនស្រីឲ្យទៅគេ300ខ្ញុំពិបាកពេលតខ្វល់ប្តីខ្ញុំអត់ជួយចាំទេដល់ហើយតែខ្ញុំយកកូនដាច់ចិត្តយកកូនទៅលក់ឲ្យគេបាន200ជួបទៅនៅហាងពេជ្រនៅជាមួយគេឥឡូវនៅខ្វះលុយគេហ្នឹងចាពេលរយៈ1ឆ្នាំបានគេថាឲ្យរួចលុយ300ហ្នឹងឥឡូវខ្ញុំគិតគូរទៅយកកូនវិញ
But now more and more they come to us, and we notice that there are problem of gang rape because.
Cũng mẫu người ta chân khang mà chân nó anh mua đây chân lẹ nã tha khá yên biết ra để mà đâu biết ra đâu gì.
Last 3 months, 4 months, we make a research about the gang rape. It's increased a lot. It's increased a lot right now.
Về tha sấy đấng dương, vì dương hỏi mua giống phụ mạ dương hỏi mua giống vì răng luôn mùi dương vì ọt hồn đây mùi dương tí đây chân dương còn miền bơ hăng xa bay vì một đêm mới là lớn thử đây có con em bơm chân đấy này anh thử đừng bay hơi ọt oi lôi chim tôi đâu ọt oi lôi như thiệt.
We have researched 32% of the prostitutes in Phnom Penh. They have been raped every day. 32% of them. They have been raped more than 10 men per night.
Cụ ma giống là một hai đấy để xa việc duyên rừng sinh nâng châu mà không châu một tí giống tráng là lớn nâng xong bây đặt con không mấy mình toan nâng ở dụng pin nọ nam rồi còn toan pin vây nữa có việc tráng xa ở lần phê nâng này lúc ấy bia đôi kia hầu châu mà có à pin và thoa xích ấy nâng hướng con xích ấy nâng bia vơi chuột không mấy là lớn.
This 30-minute video presentation just aims at being a serious eye-opener regarding this planetary dire state of affair. Pedophilia and underage sex are perpetrated by all cultures alike. Please assume that the whole ordeal we are faced with is way worse than what this video is showing you. This is not a necessary evil. This evil can be addressed if we have the courage to make sense of the data once and for all. So many children raised in such violent environment does not bode well. How does the humanity's future look like when more and more kids and underage become soulless as a result of being trafficked? Even adults on top of that also being exploited and killed for the organs by merciless predators because our world economy itself generates endless poverty. Humanity will not change unless we become more aware of the nature of the problems, and that our comprehension that the system as it is cannot be fixed. Therefore, removing ourselves from a system treating us like commodities will save our species from self-destruction.
This top-down model is a trauma-based model. At the top are the psychopaths, the sickest people, and at the bottom are the vulnerable populations, the prisoners, the poor. And then in the middle are most of us who are absolutely traumatized by this system, and at the same time maybe seek to do good in the world. So the best way to find the monster is to go within.
And yes, until a critical mass is reached, some fundraising is still necessary to spread the word. By critical mass, it is meant at least 30% of world population being aware of the money-free society alternative. And this regardless of other groups out there promoting such a paradigm shift. Feel free to visit our forum and sign up to meet like-minded people also concerned about the future of freedom and willing to contribute to the much-needed social change.